Hello everybody and welcome back to another Marvel Crisis Protocol roster building video, and today we are going to be taking our best attempt at a new mutants list where the kind of concept is going to basically be teleporting up characters with auras that can either be used to immediately punish the character that just punched one of our characters or do meaningful things for either their next action or our next action. So yeah, with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and get started with, of course, the new Mutants characters that we're going to be including, because we should probably have at least a few of those so we can legally play the affiliation. So we're going to go ahead, set our filters to only show new mutants here, and we're going to start picking from this list here. Now, full disclosure, I did actually already record this video, but I screwed up and wasn't recording the video portion of the video, so I kind of already know what I'm doing with this one. Unfortunately, there won't be as much kind of decision points that I'm going to be talking through out loud, but I will talk through some of the decisions I considered. So first things first, we're going to need Magic, because Magic's going to be our leader. From there, I want to basically have a kind of easy core of 3 models that I can bring almost every game that'll be relatively okay for this theme, and still allow us lots of room for splashes. So generally speaking, lower threats are going to be better here. The first one that I want to include here is going to be Kitty, who actually does kind of fit the idea. We teleport Kitty up, and then Kitty can then use Can't Touch This on whatever their next attack is to try and, make it so their main target stays alive better, and that feels pretty alright. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and take Kitty for that second slot there. From there, I definitely want to include one of the other 3 threats. That's either going to be X-23 or Warlock, and neither of them really fits the idea all that well, but X-23 fits a little bit better, just kind of being a model that likes to be up in your face, so I think we're going to go ahead and take X-23 for that next spot there. Lastly, just to even out threats for when it may be more convenient to do so, I do want to include one of these higher threat characters here, and the main ones I was considering between are going to be Cable and Sunspot. Cable kind of fitting the theme in the same way that Kitty does, being able to add dice to models' defense rolls. It can be pretty nice if we can teleport them up and have that bubble affect more areas. Versus Sunspot, who just benefits from being teleported up in general. And for the purpose of this list, I'm going to go towards Sunspot here, because I already have a few models that are really worth considering for that 5 threat slot. So I think, unfortunately, we're going to leave Cable at home, because I want to bring one of those other splash options, and having more than one 5 can be a little bit awkward for list building. So yeah, that's going to be our kind of New Mutants core here, these 4 characters. The idea is we'll probably be bringing these 3 most games, and then Sunspot to sub in for probably X-23 when we feel like we need it. Looking at unaffiliated characters, there's going to be kind of 2.5 main things we're kind of looking for. The first one is going to be auras and like crackback style things, things that can hurt the model that just made the attack, not necessarily when they are attacked. So we're not looking at characters with Counter-Strike necessarily, but more characters that can punish another model for having made an attack. So that's going to be one of the first kind of things we're going to be looking at, those, and then, yeah, like I mentioned, auras, models that can kind of say, hey, I'm here now, and because I'm here, something is worse for you, whether that is you're losing a die on something, you're getting a condition, whatever it is. So those are going to be some of the main things we're looking for, and then the other thing we might want to keep an eye out for is things like taunts, too dangerous to ignore style effects, where we can teleport this model up, and then when they make their second attack, we can say, well, no, you're punching this guy who I just teleported up, is kind of the idea. So with that said, the first model that kind of checks all of the boxes here is going to be Honey Badger, and also just works really, really nicely with X-23 being in the list. So yeah, Honey Badger makes a lot of sense to me. Having that ankle biter aura here is going to be really, really nice. We can teleport into that range to, we often might want to do that on the second attack, or we do it on the first attack, and then we can do dangerous to ignore before their second attack comes in. So we get a little bit of cool versatility with Honey Badger there. And of course, we want the other kind of dice-based aura, which is going to be Shocker. Same deal, we're going to teleport him in. He's going to have this if the ground is rocking going here, where he gets to reduce the attack dice for our opponent's models. And yeah, I think just being able to teleport these 2 around and get them into optimal positions on our opponent's turn is going to be really, really nice. From there, I want to consider a few models that can kind of teleport in and then punish our opponent for what they did. And the first one that I think is going to be really, really cool for this is going to be Ghost Rider. And I really like the idea of this. He's going to be able to use the power that he gains from having one of your allies be attacked to then teleport in, and then he can use Wicked's Judgment here to basically punish the attacker. And because this is based on the range to the attacker, not the range to the allied character, this will make sure he's basically basically always in range as long as it was a, I think because of the large base, a range 4 attack, he'll be able to be in range every time, unless, you know, terrain or something is blocking him from his placement. But anything range 4 or closer, he'll be able to punish with this. So yeah, I think it's cool, and I'm always looking for excuses to throw Ghost Rider in lists because I do really, really enjoy playing that model. So he's going to be our first kind of punishing character here. Another one that I want to include is going to be Gwenum, who we can teleport in and then can immediately use pick on someone your own size to make a free attack against the model that just attacked. So yeah, Gwenum makes a lot of sense for a list like this and is kind of one of the ideal situations for this list. From there, with only 2 slots remaining, I want to make sure we include at least 1 Taunter, so we're going to kind of reserve the last slot for that. And with our other slot here, and to be fair, Honey Badger is a Taunter, but I kind of want at least 1 more because Honey Badger is also an Aura, and I feel like most of the time I'm going to be preferring to use that side of her. So with the other model we can include here, I want to kind of include something a little bit more tricky than just kind of the damage or dice auras that these two have. So some of the models that were being considered for this, well, stuff like Amazing Spider-Man is pretty solid for this, also providing a safe grab. Being able to use Witty Banter, just kind of bumping yourself into the position where Witty Banter will be super relevant. In a similar vein to that, we also have options such as Crimson Dynamo. Being able to get that disruption field range up is definitely really, really nice. So those two would have been totally acceptable options, and if you're building your own version of this list, definitely worth considering. In addition to those characters, I also think teleporting up characters with reroll bubbles, whether that's Baron Zemo or, where is he? Baron Strucker. There's Zemo, there's Strucker, and of course Namor, again, if you're looking for that safe grab. If I didn't already have Ghost Rider in the list, I would more strongly be considering Namor or Amazing Spider-Man, again, partially for the safe grab, partially just because their 5 threats is the main conflict there, but their abilities do work with the idea of the list. We also have either of the Lokis. Could be really fun to just kind of teleport into the middle of the action and say, hey, you know, this Loki's aura is in effect now, or teleport this Loki in and just kind of be like, hey, yeah, we're messing with your skulls and stuff more frequently now. Of course, the one thing with this Loki is that he'd already, if he was in range 3, be able to do his skull thing, so it's a little bit redundant on him, but still definitely nice to be able to move that aura around as needed. The main models we're considering for this slot, though, include Omega Red, who has this, it's Death Spores here. Enemy characters ending their activation within range 2 of this character gain the Poison special condition, being able to teleport him in and just kind of say at the end of this activation, which oftentimes, you know, if you do it on their second attack, they're basically done from there. You're going to be poisoned, and there's not much you can do about it. And then we can go with Omega Red and say, okay, well now we've got Death Factor, so we're just gonna immediately plink you for 2 damage, and stuff like that could be kind of cool. Give a cool place for Omega Red, who doesn't see too much play, but I think giving him that sort of mobility definitely helps him out in a huge way. So Omega Red is one of the ones I'm strongly considering for the slot, and then the other model that I was kind of considering for that slot for a very similar reason is Iceman, who has, when an enemy character ends an attack action, well, also a move action, but in this case we care more about the attack action, within range 2 of him, they will gain the slow special condition, and if they're already slowed, we can give them a damage instead. So I think both of these would have been really, really solid options, but we already have a good amount of 3s. We're going to be bringing 3 3s almost every game, and we also have the Shocker option there, and spoiler alert, the model that I'm considering for our last slot is also a 3 threat. I think it just makes more sense to go with the 4 threat Omega Red here, and it's also just a great excuse to include Omega Red in the list. So yeah, I totally scrolled past him, didn't I? But there he is. Yeah, we'll go ahead and throw him in for that last slot. I love an excuse to include him because I do think he's really, really fun, and I think New Mutants kind of solves a lot of his main issues, just kind of being that he's slow to move up the board. So yeah, that feels pretty good for him, I think. And the last model we're going to include here is going to be my favorite taunter in the game. That is going to be Luke Cage. I just really like him for this. I mean, I just really like him in general, but being able to teleport him in and just say, hey, I've got 2 dangerous online and I'm right in the middle of the action feels really, really good. So yeah, I'm going to be including him as that 10th slot. There is actually a really strong argument for another taunter that doesn't see too much play in the form of Black Dwarf here. And the reason why Black Dwarf is really good in a list like this is because you can teleport him in with that range 1, and then he's got that large base, so he's going to be able to get more models potentially in his taunt range. So there's definitely an argument for that, and I think he might even be the better choice for a list like this, but I'm a sucker for Luke Cage, so we're going to include Luke Cage. Moving on to tactics cards, first things first, we're going to want to include our leadership itself, which I think is just called New Mutants here. So yeah, that's kind of important since we built this entire list around using the leadership, so we're definitely going to want that. From there, we got to pick our restricted cards, and I think the first thing we're going to want is Brace. Everyone in this list is going to be very susceptible to throws, so we want to have that for sure. From there, we've got a few options. We've got Fallback, Indom, Patchup, and Sacrifice. I don't think for the most part we're running characters that are bulky enough to really get full mileage out of Patchup, so we're going to pass on that one. We're not running large characters, and also we have the ability to teleport them back into the fight if they do get thrown out of position, so we probably don't need Indom either. Fallback is an interesting one, but in my opinion just doesn't hold up as well as a restricted card as it did as an unrestricted card, so that kind of leaves us with Sacrifice, which I think is really, really good in a list like this, where some of these models that we can teleport up are great for some of the things that they're doing in the middle of the fight, but they really don't want to be the ones being punched, thinking specifically Gwenum with this one. So being able to kind of pass that attack off onto another character and then have Gwenum crackback and things like that could be really, really nice. So yeah, even though we got a couple taunts already, I think I still like Sacrifice for this list, just for, the situations where taunting isn't really possible or ideal. From there, we're going to take a look at our New Mutants cards, and I think it's just the three here. We've got Practice Round, Survive the Night, and Tomorrow's Soldiers. Practice Round is definitely one that I want to include. I think this card is just really, really solid. It's basically a conditional recal, but it costs you 0 power, and turns out that's pretty good. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take Practice Round because I really, really like that card. Next, we have Survive the Night, which is almost definitely going to be a thing for this list. I think this is really, really good for this style list, and just kind of in general, being able to kind of make some extra attacks from our other allied characters that, we're already trying to teleport up anyways, is going to feel pretty good most of the time. So yeah, we're going to be able to throw that in here as well. Tomorrow's Soldiers, I think, is an interesting card, and I think if you were playing a more New Mutants heavy team than the version that I am playing, it would be potentially really, really good. But in this case, because we only have, we're probably only going to have about 3 New Mutants characters on average in our roster, we probably don't want to be bringing this one. I don't think we're going to get too much mileage out of it. So unfortunately, we're going to leave Tomorrow's Soldiers behind. Going into character cards next, there's a few that we definitely want to be bringing along here. First things first, Deal with the Devil. We're bringing Ghost Rider. We have a 2-threat. This card is going to be really, really nice with them in combination because, teleporting Ghost Rider up to the front definitely makes him a bit of a target. He's not the bulkiest model in the world, so being able to teleport him up to the front and then kind of say, hey, you could punch him, but I'm just going to take Honey Badger off the board and put him back on, so what's the point? Feels really, really good with him. So we're going to be including Deal with the Devil. Next for cards, we're going to be including Heroes for Hire because I'm bringing Luke Cage, and Heroes for Hire is an insanely good card. So yeah, that one's going to make the cut. From there, I think we're also going to be including Faithful Companion here, seeing as we're bringing both Kitty and Magic pretty much every game in this roster, and I just like this card. I think it's a solid card, and yeah, no real notes more than that. I quite like it, so we're going to go ahead and include it. At this point in time, we've only got 2 slots left for our tactics cards, and I want to include at least one of either Journey or Highway here, and the decision between the two of them is, well, I do really like Highway because you can kind of set it up with the New Mutants leadership to have Ghost Rider in an ideal position to do it before his turn starts, so I do really like that part of it. But unfortunately, we're already bringing a Ghost Rider card, and he's not necessarily going to be on the table every single game, so I think I'm going to lean towards the slightly more generically usable card in Journey Through Limbo, because Magic is, being our leader, going to be on the table pretty much, if not every single game, so yeah, kind of just makes sense that Magic's card should probably take priority over Ghost Rider's second card, especially just trying to make sure that we always have a decent selection of cards, which actually isn't too much of a problem with this list because New Mutants is always going to take one of our slots, followed by our 2 restricteds, and then we still have 2 other New Mutants cards, so even if somehow we were bringing none of the characters on this list, we would still be hitting 5 cards with just these cards here, but just because we can. I like to include one kind of generic card anyways that isn't going to require a specific character, but because we are in an okay spot for them, I think including Highway or even something like Jonathan here would be totally acceptable. But personally, I just really like to have at least one generic option. And for generic options, I think our main things that we want to look at here are going to be either Warpath Survival or Recalibration Matrix, and I'm going to lean towards Warpath on this one. And the reason why I like Warpath for this is the timing on Warpath, because it happens after an attack is resolved. You get to spend one power to advance towards the attacking character, which is the same timing as the leadership, so you can choose to stack this one first and do the leadership afterwards, meaning you can use it to really nicely position where your allied model is teleporting in. Alternatively, you could do it the other way. You could teleport your allied model up maybe onto an objective, and then you could walk away from that objective with the model that just got attacked to go fight the enemy team. So I think you get some kind of cool versatility with this card. And yeah, it's one of the things that makes me really, really want to play this leadership, because I just think it's really, really cool, some of the lines you can kind of get with stuff like this. With all of our tactics cards decided, we're going to go ahead and move on to crises cards here. And for crises cards, I think it's going to be a little bit of an interesting situation here. I wasn't really 100% sure what to do with these, because I'm not super confident in our ability to kind of safely grab at some points, but we do have a lot of models that are kind of in a prime position to say, hey, this model walked up, and because they got punched, A, I can potentially teleport someone to them, and B, I'm getting extra power on stuff like Ghost Rider and things like that, who can now do some more interesting things. So I think with that in mind, there's some kind of interesting play patterns we can kind of look for with some of these objectives. And the first one for me, and in my opinion, the most interesting, is going to be Mutant Extremists target US Senators. And I love this card for New Mutants. The way that the lineup works on these back objectives here is if you're within one of it and you have another allied model lined up with you relatively nicely. If it's small bases, it's going to be somewhat precise. If it's like a large or a medium base, it's very, very easy. And then your model holding the sender gets punched, you can teleport the model from deployment up to the middle of the board, which feels absolutely amazing. You have so much extra kind of safety on the scenario with New Mutants. It's kind of insane. So yeah, I really, really like this. I'm really excited to try playing this myself. So we're going to be including Senators for sure here. From there, I think because we can, I kind of want to include this this newer one that got revealed at time of recording earlier today, but I guess yesterday by the time this video goes out, which is Ship Security Breached in Royal Rescue. Now, there's no actually telling that whether or not these two are going to be in the game at the same time, because as a lot of us are expecting, when the new scenarios come out, we might see some of the old ones rotated, and that could include Senators here. So this might be a list that's like not legal at any point in time in the game's existence, so that could be kind of interesting, but we're going to do it anyways, because I think this one's really, really cool, and it's got the same sort of situation where this is the same distance up the board, I think at least, that the Senators are, 5 and 3, so it's going to be the same distance up the board as Senators, which means we kind of have a super safe back point grab here, and I like it more than Skrulls, because if we get pushed on Skrulls, that definitely messes up that plan for us, but this one doesn't push us. So yeah, I like that one a lot, and we're definitely going to be including that. From there, for our last point, I don't think any of these are necessarily amazing for us, but I'm going to lean towards Struggle for the Cube, and the reason why I like Struggle for the Cube is, again, we can teleport up to our kind of back point holders, and most of the time if it's our own extracts, that means our opponent won priority, so they probably grabbed the middle one already anyways, so we don't really have to worry about that too much. So yeah, I mean, we're accepting that we're kind of scoring down most of the time if we're playing this one turn 1, but we can potentially punish really, really well if they decide to punch one of our characters on a back point. So yeah, I think we take Struggle for the Cube and call it there for extracts. For secures, I think we're going to play a very similar sort of idea where we want to be able to teleport to models on our kind of back points, and we want those back points to be further up the board if possible, so that teleporting up to them is, more meaningful, more distance, all of that jazz. So the first thing I think we're going to include here is going to be Sword, because I really like Sword for this. The 4 and 3 up is well within kind of a safe teleport range, and the objectives are close enough together that teleporting a model there gives them a lot of freedom to be able to play on the rest of the objectives there. So yeah, I think sword just kind of makes a lot of sense here. From there, why not keep it going with the newer scenarios and try out Guardians Save Shi'ar Empress in style? I think this one works very, very similarly. It's kind of like a pseudo GB hybrid sort of map. And I really, really like the idea of this for a list like this, being able to teleport our allies onto the points. I think it works really interestingly with pay to flips just in general as well. I didn't mention this on Sword, but being able to teleport more bodies up to those points reactively to our opponent attacking the models on them is going to be really, really nice for just kind of being able to make it harder for them to flip our points. So yeah, I think that works pretty well here. For our last one, I don't think we quite want to play as upfront as something like Deadly Meteors here. I don't think we win the attrition game, so even though we do have a back point we could teleport to in theory, I just don't think it works out super duper well for us. So I think we're going to pass on Deadly Meteors and go with something a little bit safer. Something like an Infinity Formula, or maybe a Mutant Madmen, or a Superpowered Scoundrels, all of which are the same distance from deployment line. So we can teleport up to them, but we're not as likely to be punched on those points, so we might not get the opportunity to do so, but that's also kind of fine because then we're not taking damage, and you know, that kind of works out for us as well. So in this case, between these three, I think I'm going to lean towards Infinity Formula just because I like Infinity Formula. Honestly, there's not really much more to it than that. I think the extra power will be nice for this list. We definitely have a lot of kind of more power-hungry models where, you know, how their builders are going and things like that is going to really determine how much they can do, especially if we're paying for the leadership all the time. So this will help with that a little bit, but yeah, there's not really a crazy amount of rhyme or reason to this one. The one thing I can kind of confidently state is if we have a model kind of contesting our back point here, and we've decided, you know, maybe we got 2 or 3 models on this point, we want to push forward on the other one, I send maybe X-23 up to this one, and she starts fighting over here. Well, now they've got to deal with X-23. They shoot X-23, and we say, okay, well, hey, look, Ghost Rider's also here, or somebody else is also here, so now we've got an extra model on their back point. That definitely feels pretty good. So that's true of any of these three, the Mutant Madmen or Scoundrels as well. But it's part of why I like the BRF map for this team. So yeah, I think we're going to kind of go with formula there. Just keep it simple for that last one. And hey, look at that. We're already including some of the new ones, which I'm really, really happy about. So I guess it's a good thing that my other one didn't work out because I didn't have those when I was making this list yesterday. So yay. Alrighty, and there we have the list. So we have Magic leading the charge. For our other New Mutants members, we have Kitty, X-23, and Sunspot. We've got a couple auras in Honey Badger and Shocker, as well as some ways of dealing damage back with Ghost Rider and Gwenom. We've got Omega Red throwing out some conditions unexpectedly, and we've got Luke Cage there just to take some punches for a lot of these squishier models on the team. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. This actually looks like a list that I would have a lot of fun playing with. I've got to get my Sunspot painted up, and I don't actually have a kitty yet, so I guess I got to fix that. But this is definitely a roster that, as I was kind of building this, especially yesterday when I built this for the first time, I was realizing how much fun this seemed like it would be to play. I'm not sure if it's necessarily the most competitive thing in the world. I think New Mutants in general are missing a few things to be that, but it does seem like a lot of fun and definitely right up my alley for playstyle. So really, really looking forward to trying to get something like this on the table in the near future. With that said, we're going to take a look at our tactics cards that we've chosen here. So we have, of course, the New Mutants Leadership. We got Brace and Sacrifice for our restricted slots here. We got Practice Round and Survive the Night as our New Mutants affiliated cards. For character cards, we got a few here. We got Deal with the Devil, Heroes for Hire, Faithful Companion, and Journey Through Limbo. And then I made sure to include one generic, that being Warpath, which I do think works really, really nicely with the leadership. So glad to see that as well. Lastly, we have our crises down here, where we included a couple of the newer ones revealed yesterday as well. So for extracts, we have Mutant Extremists target U.S. Senators, Ship Security Breached in Royal Rescue, and Struggle for the Cube continues. On the secure side, we got Sword Base, Guardians Save Shi'ar Empress in Style, and Infinity Formula goes missing. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this came out. I actually really like the new scenarios in here. I think they work really nicely for this list and definitely make me a little bit happier with the scenarios than I was when I built this list yesterday. So super excited about that. But yeah, just in general, I think I said this a couple times now, but this just seems like a really fun list to play, and I definitely want to put this and New Mutants in general on the table in the near future, because yeah, I really like this leadership. I liked it from the moment I saw it when it was first revealed, and I just haven't gotten around to playing it. So I think that's a little bit of a crime, and I should really get on that. So with that said, I think that's going to do it for this roster building video. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you did, please do drop a like down below. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Helps me out a bunch. Lets me know you guys are enjoying the things that we are throwing out here. So definitely much appreciated. But that's going to do it for me. So until next time, have a great day, everybody. Peace.